I am joined with Adrian Leeds, the infamous, the famous. Adrian, I almost want to say that you're a pillar in this whole Franco-American experience. Like you're one of the pioneers of this whole move to France thing, and you're the housing queen. You've got your newsletter that you go out 3 times a week. You've got your après-midi events once a month. You've got a financial forum. You are the host of House International Paris Edition. En plus de tout ça, you have a company, Adrian Leeds Group, where you help people move to France.
All that is true.
You're a big deal.
I'm not even sure how I got here, just putting one foot in front of the other.
Now,
it just happens.
what year did you move to France?
1994.
What was France like in 1994?
Compared to now?
Yeah, how has it changed?
I think it's a matter of perception because my own viewpoint would be so different now that I know it so well, right? Because when you're a newcomer and you're just experiencing everything is brand new, language is new, everything is new. And I've watched it grow up in a way. I can remember when there were the Minitel, which was sort of a precursor to the internet. And then there was the internet, and we had mail. Gee, we had mail, actual email. That was amazing. I saw the French go from not being able to type on a computer to actually really getting into it and becoming very, very computer literate. In some ways, even more advanced than I think Americans.
One of my theories is also that France became a lot less car-centric in the past 30 years.
Well, they're working really hard at removing vehicles and pollution. So they're doing everything they can to bring life back into the center cities rather than the suburbs like we have in the U.S. In fact, it's one of my big complaints.
About?
I find that Americans live in their bubble,
Yeah.
the car,
Yeah.
because they have no choice. You know, the only city that really has great public transportation where you can live without a car is New York.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, you're going from your house to the car, from the car to the grocery store, the bank, or the whatever, and you never actually commune with people, which is so different than a European lifestyle where life is based on the center cities, the 15-minute city where everything is accessible by foot, and it changes your lifestyle completely.
Would you say that Paris or Nice are 15-minute cities?
Oh, absolutely. Nice, you can walk from one end of town to the other.
I think
in
Nice
30
very much
minutes.
so is a 15-minute city. Yeah.
But so is Paris. Each neighborhood is its complete own little city, little entity.
I think that's true. I mean, walking from Paris end to end probably is like an hour and a half of a walk. But you're not going to go out and do that because you don't need to do that. You're seeing the same things 20 times over. You know, as you said,
No,
that
but you
each
can stay in your own quartier.
Exactly.
It's all there. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's what I liked when I first moved. I was in Place des Fêtes in the 19th, and I was on Place des Fêtes. So I had 3 different grocery stores, like major, big-sized grocery stores. I had multiple boulangeries. I had access to the Parc Butte-Chaumont, which is right there. I had everything that I would need right there. I didn't even need really take the metro because I was already kind of good.
Right, unless you had to get to something on the other part of town. But you didn't really need to leave your quartier to get anything done.
To have goodness.
Not really.
Yeah.
Right. You can easily be 100 years old and still have a life. I have a neighbor in Paris who's 103 living by herself in a studio apartment.
You know, a nursing home is in theory a 3-minute city. It's like everything is à portée de main, like right next to you, whether it's down the hallway or down the elevator, what have you.
And
that's basically having the city be an extension of that.
Yes, but then you're surrounded by nothing but old people, okay? And there's not much going on. Let's face it. If you're in the city, you've got everything.
Is Nice a city of old people?
Nice is clearly one of the country's retirement communities, but it is definitely not a city of old people. It's not geriatric. No. I mean, you will see a lot of older couples or whoever. You'll see people in wheelchairs and walkers, but it's not the only thing you see on the street. There's lots of universities. There are a lot of young people.
I've always felt like if it's not Paris, it's Nice. Like it's like the second city of France.
There is a kind of a playfulness here that doesn't really exist in most of France that I think, first of all, you've got the sun. You've got 300 plus days a year of sunshine. And look, it's pouring in and it makes everybody happy. But it's also, I think, the Italian influence. This was Savoie up until 1860. It was part of the Italian Empire. And I think there's a kind of an esprit that's here that doesn't really exist much of anywhere else in France.
I like that word that you just said. You said it's playful. Would you describe the French in general as playful?
No, but the Niçois I would. You know, even if you look around, you'll see art in the city, public art that has a kind of frivolous idea to it everywhere, and you think that wouldn't go in Paris. It wouldn't be serious enough for Paris. But they want to have that playfulness. It's all about, you know, enjoying life.
Now, it's kind of fun for us, you and me, we've been in France for a good long while to play this game of which one's better fit for us, Paris or Nice. But if you had to pick between France and the United States, that opens a whole nother can of worms. I feel like
That's easy.
I feel like America's changing constantly and radically, but particularly in 2025 and 2026 going forward, I feel like America's taken on a different tenor than what it's been in the past. I feel like I left America in Obama's hands. And I feel like I recognize it less and less.
When I left, it had nothing to do with politics. In 1994, it had zero to do with politics. In spite of the politics, I would never choose the United States over France, in spite of the politics. Because of the politics, I know damn well I'm never going back, and I'm looking forward to getting my citizenship here, and I'm going to feel very good about that in case I should ever want to renounce my U.S. citizenship. What's happening in the U.S. for me is really horribly upsetting because this is my home country that I never dreamed would get to this point.
Yeah.
You know, I understand the politics between the right and the left, okay, it swings back and forth, all of that's normal, but as long as we still have a democracy, we can have a life. But what's happening there since Donald Trump's in office is just inexcusable. I am pretty open about my political beliefs. And the right, they tell me two interesting things. First, they tell me that I shouldn't be writing about politics in my own newsletter, which cracks me up since it's mine and I get to say whatever I want. And the other thing they tell me is that it's going to hurt my business. And I think, wow, they care more about money and business than they do about morality. That's interesting. Because I think morality is way more important than how I'm going to line my pockets. I'm not going to prostitute myself just to make money. So that's really, for me, a big difference between the right and the left. And so, yeah, if they don't like me, then they don't like me, and that's all there is to it.
There's a point that you raised earlier that I wanted to circle back to about renouncing U.S. citizenship. Just on...
Oh, it's kind of a joke, because I probably wouldn't do it, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes more sense if we were living in Switzerland or something. The French tax regime is slightly higher than the U.S. one, so if you're not a U.S. tax resident and you're French and you're living in France, you're under the French tax regime. So there's no... I feel like the primary reason why a person renounces it is for financial reasons. And if we're living here in France, there's no real reason to renounce U.S. citizenship. It only makes sense if you're going to a different country that has a lighter tax regime. And that's why I've never really seen any client want to renounce U.S. citizenship once they become French.
No,
there's no real reason to it.
There's no real reason to, and not only that, but it's a serious thing. I mean, I have to hope and pray that the country will turn itself around.
Yeah. But that the argument for you to renounce it or versus for me to renounce it, it's different situations. Like I'm always thinking about, okay, well, what if, I've got parents that are falling sick, I need to spend more, 4 months at a time in the U.S. I don't want to have to go out and ask for a U.S.-based, visa. That would sound crazy to my ears. So that's why I would never want to renounce U.S. citizenship in any event.
But we're probably lucky if we can still get in with our citizenship if we're traveling to the United States right now. I don't know what to expect at customs.
Well, there was a Republican senator out of Ohio that was trying to ban dual nationality. And then there's another proposition, I think it's called the SAVE Act, that requires voting in person with a passport, which would block us, unless we're flying back for Election Day, from being able to vote.
Yeah, and what happens? And what happens to us if that happens?
Well, then we wouldn't have the ability to vote.
Exactly.
That's what the Brits do right now. If the Brits live abroad, they don't get the right to vote.
And we'd have to choose between our French citizenship and our U.S. citizenship, and then what do you choose?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question for me.
I think there's really no question for you. Because especially if my thought is, okay, what if my parents in their retirement age need help? But you are already, there's no question for you
I have no parents.
And
I have
for
no
you,
parents to worry about.
And if ever one fine day you stop working, which I would have a very hard time seeing because you plug away, you're already here in France. Like you would have your retirement days here in France.
Of course.
You wouldn't go back to the States.
No, no.
So,
and my daughter's in the process of moving back to France in order to educate her son here in France and not in the U.S. for
Yeah.
all the obvious reasons.
so for you, there's, I think your ties are even less strong than for me. I feel like I've lived, the first 26 years or so of my life in America before coming over here.
But well, I have a lot more years on you.
Now, let's talk about your specialization, which is housing. How did you get into housing?
I didn't happen to it. It happened to me. I was working for International Living at the time, and their readers wanted someone who could help them find property in Paris. And so International Living said, well, is this something you can do? And I said, well, I don't know anything about this, but I can find somebody who does. So I hired a property finder, and that was really the beginning of it.
What was the hardest thing to learn in getting into housing?
I think that when you've got good resources around you, very soon after that, I met Martin Di Matteo, who's my #1 designer and contractor. And then I started doing my own properties. I started buying and renovating my own properties with her assistance. And, you learn by the seat of your pants. By the time you get finished, you've got it under your belt.
What's the oldest property that you've sold?
A house in Normandy that was 12th and 13th century.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is it more fun to sell in Paris or to sell in Nice?
Well, we're not salespeople.
Okay.
Let's start with that.
Okay.
We do list a few properties, but we'll only list properties that we would recommend our clients buy. So we're property consultants, and we find property. So we're on the buyer's side, not the seller's side. I don't want to have to be on the sales side, actually.
What's the best piece of advice you have for a buyer looking to buy in France who's kind of clueless about how France works?
Oh, they should never do it on their own. It's that simple. I mean, anyone who's not really familiar with France should never attempt doing this on their own, whether it's with us or some other firm, because there's no multiple listing service. That means that the agents work only for the seller. They only want to sell the properties. So they're not going to tell you why you should not buy that property. They're not going to show you all the problems with it.
Well, they have to on some level with the vis cachet. They can't
By
not
law.
divulge certain flaws, like core flaws in the property.
Core flaws, yes, but they're not going to say, this location might not be ideal for you because it will take you too long to get to your daughter on the other side of town. They're not going to say, this kitchen really needs an update and you can expect to spend 10 or 15,000 euros to do that. They're not going to say those things. We're going to say those things.
Yeah. I've heard of the experience too. We've only bought a house once in France, and God willing, it'll be our forever home. We met with the real estate agent, and at one point I asked her, are you representing the seller? Are you representing the buyer? And she's like, oh no, I'm a neutral party.
No.
And so then we're in the suburbs.
Lie.
We have
That's a lie.
We have a backyard, and we are walking through the backyard, and there's a beautiful tree. And I go, what kind of tree is this? And she pauses and she looks at me. And you could see her calculating. She said figuier. Oh no, she said cerisier, so cherry tree. And I felt like she was saying, whatever tree you want it to be, dude. I will tell you whatever you need to hear so you can buy this property.
I don't know, and let me find out, or whatever. Right.
Yeah, because
you
ultimately
cannot.
she's not working in my interest as the seller's agent, as a real estate agent.
No.
So I think that's the real utility of a buyer's agent like yourself, is someone that can kind of step in and say, listen, we're here to protect your interests. This property that you're looking at may or may not be in your best interests. Absolutely,
that is exactly what we do. There are buyer's agents in France, but they hold a very poor position because by law they cannot take any kind of advance payment for the work. They have to share the commission with the selling agency. The selling agencies don't want to share commission with them, and therefore the agencies won't show them the best properties. So they don't have access to good properties. We're hired by the buyer, we're paid by the buyer to do that. So it's an extra fee for the buyer.
Yeah.
But we're the insurance policy. We're doing the due diligence. We're going to ensure that they make a really good purchase.
Yeah.
When we have a commission share with the selling agency, because we're a licensed agency, then we refund that back to our client. So about half the time in Nice, Never in Paris, because Parisian agencies will not share commissions, but we can save them quite a bit of money by doing that.
Now, there's no
Yeah.
MLS. You and I did a
No.
video a while back, and I posted it, and everyone in the comment section started talking about Se Loger, Se Loger.
That's not an MLS.
What is Se Loger then?
It's just a website. It's a portal. It's a large portal where most of the agencies advertise their properties. That does not make it an MLS.
So what's the difference between Se Loger and an MLS?
Well, the multiple listing service is an enormous network where all properties in the United States actually aggregate into this one system. So when a property is put on the market, it's available to everyone at the same time. And the agents know they're going to share their commissions. It's just a given.
Okay.
So if you go to an agent, one agent has access to everything. That's not true here.
But like, let's say that you're Century 21 and you post a property here in France on Se Loger. Any person on the market could theoretically go to the website and look at it, right?
Yes.
So doesn't that mean that you still have access to all properties, or
No,
what am I
because
missing?
it's not all properties.
Not everything's on Se Loger?
No, you have to pay dearly to advertise a property on Se Loger. It's not a universal network. It's just a portal.
So if that's one of the networks but it doesn't contain everything, then how does a person find the coolest property or the best fit for them? How do they know?
They
how do
hire
find-
us.
Okay, well, there,
no.
well, there's the commercial. There you go. Yeah.
It's pretty simple. Either you do the legwork yourself,
Yeah.
okay, or you hire someone to do the legwork for you. But there's a big difference. An individual won't have the same clout that we have.
Yeah.
Because we represent a lot of clients. So when we work with, and it's professional to professional.
It's network.
And we're holding the hand of the foreign buyer, and they don't have to do that. That's a lot of work, answering all those questions, making sure the foreign buyer understands everything, right? So they love us because we just bring them business.
That's lovely. Now you've got your show House Hunters International, and one of my friends who likes to watch your episodes frames every episode goes this way. They show up, they say, I want to buy this big place in the Marais, and you could say, okay, let's go on a little tour, and you show them what they could actually get in the Marais, and they say, okay, maybe not in the Marais, and then they go outward to what they can maybe afford, or what's more realistic, or what's more spacious. Does that sound like a pretty accurate way of what happens on your show?
Well, okay, there's always a storyline that starts with what's called the contributor. It's usually a couple, but not always. And of course, they want to either rent or purchase, and they have certain parameters. It's all just like anybody would go through, right? You decide, okay, I'm looking for a one-bedroom apartment in this area, blah, 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 right? And then the show formula is to visit 3 properties, and then at the end, they decide which one they're going to take. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty close to reality.
How often do you fall in love with a property so much that you have to keep it for yourself and you can't even let your clients get it?
It's happened a couple of times. It has. It's happened a couple of times. In fact, I'm renovating an apartment right now in Nice for myself that I probably should have turned into a fractional ownership, but I didn't want to do that.
I mean, I guess it's kind of a silly question, but how often do you fall in love with an apartment? Or is it like every apartment you basically love, or you can appreciate or see the qualities
no.
of it?
No, I don't fall in love very often.
Okay.
No, I see a lot. I'm very critical.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm the most critical person on the staff.
Okay.
I'm trying to teach my staff to be as critical as me.
Yeah.
Which is not easy because I see every tiny little flaw. So, for example, okay, there are lots of apartments where you enter a foyer and then the rooms pivot off that foyer, and I call that a star
Configuration.
like a star shape, right? And at first glance, that just looks great. But the truth is that the foyer becomes the heart of the apartment. I don't like these apartments.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm anti-star apartments because then you're going into the living room, back to the foyer, to the kitchen, back to the foyer, to the bedroom, back to the foyer, and the heart becomes the foyer, and you find everybody standing around in the foyer.
Yeah.
So I much prefer when there's an open living space and then the bedrooms pivot off that. So this past year, my daughter and I were looking up for apartments to buy for her. and an apartment came available. And the minute I walked in, I mean, I didn't have to look at the rooms. I just walked in and went, "This is it." And I said to her, "Oh my God, you're going to love this apartment." And she walked in, she was, "Oh yeah, I love this apartment." And that was because you entered one large room. There was a bedroom on one side, a bedroom on the other side, and there was a heart, a real heart. And then there were no supporting walls, which meant we could completely reconfigure it. And that's what we're doing.
That's good. No, they called that like a salle de séjour, like where you can kind of like the where you can end up living. And yeah, you don't want to have like the foyer be just the middle of it. You want to have that.
Exactly. And then you also, when you have like a lot of hallways and you end up losing space, and then you're going up and down the hallways instead of it all feeling like it flows.
And I've often felt like, especially in Paris, we count every square meter in terms of apartment space because you're paying, 10,000 euros per square meter.
Oh yes, you're paying for
up.
every space.
And I feel like there's much more hallways in French apartments than I've ever experienced. And I've lived in a few different American cities. That like in every hallway that you have to make to connect you to the various rooms is just end up being lost space because you're only using it as for 3 seconds to get onto your next location.
I think that's primarily Haussmannian. The Haussmannian buildings were designed originally where the kitchen was at the very back of the apartment for the servants with their own entrance. And they'd have to go down a long hall to get to the dining room. And they were actually designed to keep the servants away, yes. I'm not particularly fond of Haussmannian apartments.
Actually, for the audience who might not know, can you define what a Haussmannian apartment is and what are the flaws? What are the pros and cons, really?
Well, Haussmannian apartments, these are the buildings that were designed and built from 1860s through 1910 or so as part of the Baron Haussmann plan to reconfigure the city. They were mostly on boulevards. They're gorgeous buildings. It's what most people think of Paris.
Yeah.
Okay, Haussmannian buildings are sort of what's made Paris. But their design was very, very specific, as I said, where the servants were in the back. And then every room has a fireplace, and that fireplace is a supporting wall, which cannot be altered. And it broke up the room. So, I mean, it was great for them then because a lot of people could live in those apartments.
With a lot of kids.
With a lot of kids, with a lot of heat because of the fireplaces. But in today's world, you can't open the space because of the structural walls. And you don't really need the fireplaces anymore. We have central heating. So they have to be reconfigured to work in today's lifestyle, and they're not always easy.
Yeah, and oftentimes these fireplaces nowadays are not even available. They're kind of like blocked off, so it looks like
you can't even use it.
It's just like design, oh, okay, there is the hearth in the fireplace, but it's sealed.
I see it and think, oh, that would be a perfect place for a dresser where I can store my clothing with a mirror in front of it, on top, and not why waste the space for a fireplace.
Can you confirm? I think there's a couple flaws in Haussmannian apartments nowadays to our standards. The floors are creaky, the walls are thin, the plumbing is questionable.
Oh, no, that's not true.
Oh, okay. Well, then make generalizations.
Yeah, those are definitely generalizations.
Aren't the walls too thin in Haussmannian? Can't you hear what your neighbors are always doing?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think it depends on the building, depends on what the insulation that's been used inside the apartment. You can always go in and insulate. I mean, that's not a problem. You can do that yourself. In today's world, more and more people are insulating because of the DPE, the energy ratings. In order to get the energy ratings up, you have to do insulation.
But I mean, this is just my own anecdotal experience. I've always felt like hanging around various friends' apartments in Paris, I can hear much more what the neighbors are doing or the walking, above and below than ever it was on the U.S. side with modern style construction of apartments in America.
Parquet floors can do that. You can, especially old parquet floors, if they're kind of floating
and creaky.
Yeah, it happens, but you can fix that too.
What do you run against when you're trying to either do renovations or having like a house that's really cool or an apartment that's cool but needs some work? For example, I'm thinking of, there's a lot of like historical area restrictions. Like if you're near a historical building, you have to get extra approval. If the building itself is deemed of like cultural value, you can't modify it. Do you feel like you run into some roadblocks there?
That's pretty much true for every building in Paris and in Nice too, you cannot make changes to the exterior of the building without permission of the homeowner association as well as the city. So, and I mean, I think that's fairly standard procedure. That would make sense. It's not your building.
Mm-hmm. I had a client tell me, Daniel, I think I'm doing something wrong. I'm looking for an apartment in Paris, and when I search, I only find 5. And I go, well, what are you putting in your requirements? And she goes, well, I have to have AC.
Oh, well, forget that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
And
not-
I said, there isn't, that's just not a standard feature.
No.
And I think that's one of the things that Americans really have to understand about French apartments is that you have this vision of what France is, but it's not going to have AC.
Well, these buildings were built centuries ago. They didn't have air conditioning then. And then there are restrictions on what you can do on the exterior of the building, so you can't put a compressor outside. So to create an apartment that has air conditioning, you have to have special features. As it turns out, the apartment that my daughter and I purchased for her, it's the top floor, so we have permission to put a compressor on the roof. So she's going to be able to air condition it. And here in Nice, I have a balcony, so my compressor's on the balcony, and that you're free to do. Yes.
Okay.
Especially in Nice, because you need it a lot more in Nice than you do in Paris.
Yeah, because I mean, heating in the summer and the winter is radiators, and France has all kinds of radiators. What is the most common renovation that a person has to undergo when they buy a property, whether it's Paris or Nice?
Bathrooms and kitchens. You start with that, you're doing the whole thing.
Now,
that's called plumbing, electricity.
When I lived in the 15th, we had an icebox feature. That was part of our bathroom, whereas part of the wall would just kind of carve out towards the exterior surface.
Oh, garde-manger.
Garde-manger, sure.
It's a box
Yeah.
that sits out from the window, right? You open the window and then you access the box.
Yeah,
ours was it like that?
It was more like an indentation in the wall, where I think it was something like a garde-manger, something where it would kind of keep things cool, but then they modernized it and kind of converted it into part of the bathroom, because the bathroom had been the kitchen prior.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's what this is the greatest place to put a compressor. If you have a good-sized garde-manger in a Haussmannian building, then you can put a compressor inside and nobody will see it. It'll be hidden. I look for them all the time. But that was designed to keep food cool. Right? So it sat outside, so you put your cheeses and whatever.
Can I have you define some words for us? What is pied-à-terre?
A pied-à-terre? Mm-hmm. There's many definitions of that. Basically, it means a foothold, right? It's a little piece of earth, pied-à-terre. It could mean an apartment that you use from time to time, like having a vacation home. But it's also used more universally. Pied-à-terre is kind of a small occasional apartment.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as a foothold in a certain place. You kind of a touchdown point. What about coup de cœur?
Oh, love at first sight.
Sometimes when you go online to see housing announcements, they switch into all caps when they're talking about certain words that they want to draw your attention to. And I always in my inner voice start shouting what they're saying right there. They'll say quartier au calme, very calm quartier, coup de cœur. But yeah, you see that all the time in housing announcements, the coup de cœur.
When they want to get your attention.
Yeah. How many are most apartments kind of box, cookie cutter, all kind of resemble each other, or to what extent is there a large variety of apartments in Paris or in France?
Well, the cookie cutter apartments are only in the contemporary buildings.
Okay.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not going to be in central Paris or central Nice. They're going to be in more of the suburbs, the outskirts.
And is it much more cookie cutter than you would say in the suburbs of Paris?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Where there are developers.
Let's do a rapid fire. The 92. Do you like it?
The Haute-Seine?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put it this way. There are lots of beautiful suburbs in Paris.
Yeah.
I would not want to live in them, and I don't recommend our clients live in them.
In any of the suburbs?
No.
Do you treat them all equally, or are there some that you're quaint? Oh,
no,
okay.
Okay, the western suburbs tend to generally be nicer, have good RER access, and there are a lot of bilingual schools, so for families with kids that want to go to an international school. So the western suburbs, I'd say, would be that. The suburbs that have access with the metro, so the metro ends in those suburbs, even if they're outside of the périphérique, I think that's a good situation because you don't have to get on an RER to get to them. But I do believe in as much as possible living in central Paris.
Why?
You know, it's a funny thing. It's psychological. Your friends aren't going to come visit you if you're outside the periphery.
My friends don't come visit us. We've got a
No,
lovely house
no.
that no one wants to get to because
No,
we're not well
it's-
connected.
Even if you're well connected, there's a psychological barrier about the periphery. And when you're living outside, now you come in every day because you have an office.
Right.
If you did not have an office, you probably wouldn't come into town there very much.
I would want to because I love Paris. But yeah, I wouldn't have a good grounds or reason to.
It's not like you can just go home and change your shoes, you
No,
know?
no.
Now, interestingly enough, I just spent a weekend in Lille, and we have lots of clients there, and I met with some Americans living there. And Lille is an hour on the TGV to Paris. And it's so easy that it's easier to get from Lille to Paris than it is from a Paris suburb on the RER.
Depending on the suburbs. Some of them are really like far out there. Mantes-la-Jolie is more than an hour outside of Paris.
Yes, and you're on a slow train, and then exactly. And this is so. Then you can really be in a real city, not just a suburb. You can have access to a lot more, and still have easy access to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather see them live in Lille than in a suburb of Paris.
That's funny. I think you're a hater of the suburbs. I think the suburbs are stellar,
Well,
depending on the suburb. Like
they're
I think it goes
beautiful.
city by city.
I like being dead center. You see where I am? I'm as dead center in Nice as you can possibly be.
And maybe that's a personality type too. I think you and I love being dead center.
I love being dead center.
Maybe other people don't like being dead center. Maybe it's like an introvert extrovert thing.
Okay, I talk to people every single day,
Yeah.
and they often say to me, "But I don't want to own a car. I don't want to drive a car, but I want to have a house with a garden because I love to garden."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, okay. My first comment is, the reason you're gardening is because there's nothing else to do. Okay, let's just understand that. When you're living out in the suburbs and all you have is garden, and in order to see your friends, you got to drive to and from and make arrangements. It's not the same as walking out your door and having everything at your toes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, right? So get a nice balcony, grow some herbs, get happy, and then you won't have a car, and believe me, you'll have a fabulous life.
To what extent do you feel like you're selling your clients a dream?
I don't need to sell them the dream. I'm just going to make the dream come true. They've already got the dream. That's already sold. The idea, though, is to take the dream and turn it into a reality, and that is what we do every single day.
Yeah. And I feel like
you do the same thing.
I think we're both in the dream business. No, like people have a fixation almost sometimes on France. They've seen it, and I would almost say for a lot of Americans, it's been this like, oh, for 30 years, I've wanted to live in France, and now it's early retirement, and it's finally possible. Or with changes in the working situation, people are ready to make the move from here to France, and that's a huge difference I would say between my Americans and my Brits is that my Brits could move here 30 years ago, and they did, so they're already here on a 10-year card. And my Americans have always kind of felt limited by the barriers of immigration. And now they're just finally coming to realize in the past 6 years or so, actually it's more doable than we thought. There is a way for a person who wants to move to France to actually make that move over here to France. And then you're the other side of the equation to say, and there's a place for you to live here in France. Should you want to find the right spot, talk to Adrian.
So what's the question?
I don't think it was a question. I think it was me just talking to you. No, I guess, or conversely, dreams aren't real by definition. There's realities too, and I think there's every reality possible with an apartment. When we bought, we didn't know that we needed to fix the electricity, and that was like that was like a several €1,000 bill. And then we realized the next year the roof needed to get fixed, and that was $16,000. And so,
are you in a house or an apartment?
House, yeah.
Well, see, okay, but that's what comes with a house. I had a client this week who said, "Yeah, but if we're in an apartment, we're going to pay homeowner association fees." Okay?
I don't have that, but yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to pay homeowner association fees. They happen to be very reasonable here, like €45 per square meter per year, compared to the U.S. homeowner association fees. But they hadn't thought about, but if it's your house, you're going to have a lot more expense if you're in charge of the whole building. With a homeowner association, you're sharing the expense of the operations of the building with all the other owners. So it's very inexpensive. And they hadn't really thought of it that way, but yeah.
Well, I almost want to give you pushback because I know your own housing troubles from 2 years ago or so, where all of a sudden the thing starts collapsing and your building had to put in posts in your living room. And then
Oh,
then they
yes.
scraped it all clean, all your precious
Oh,
things that you spent
yes.
years developing.
Yes.
That all had to go away because you were in a building. And I feel like when you're, at least when you're in a house, you have more say. You don't have to ask for permission of your neighbor below and above to do this or that. You can kind of just act. And I like that sense of independence you can get from being a house owner rather than being an apartment owner.
There is that, but you maintain the total responsibility all the time.
Yeah, it's on you.
Now, okay, granted, my situation was pretty unusual, but it's a 17th century building. And so I sort of feel that what I'm doing is protecting the patrimony of Paris
Yeah.
by protecting this building, by making sure the structure is, in good shape.
Let me ask you a final question, Adrian. Was it worth it, Adrian, making the move here to France?
That's the most ridiculous question I've ever heard. I came for 1 year. It was impossible to leave. You cannot leave this lifestyle. You'd have to have a really good reason to want to give it up. The move itself was actually pretty easy at the time. The struggle had to do with being able to maintain a life here, and support myself. That was the real struggle.
But it was worth it.
Well, of course. I mean, I don't regret anything. I would never go back. Never.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on our channel, Adrian. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you, Daniel.